Let's see how we can build loosely coupled code through interfaces. First of all, what is a tightly coupled code? Components are said to be tightly coupled if they are highly dependent. In OOPS programming, when client code is directly coupled with implementation, then we can say that it is tightly coupled because it makes it hard to change. Instead of that, if the client code is not directly coupled with implementation, say it is coupled only with interface, then we can easily switch between implementations without affecting the client. Such code is flexible for changes. Now let's see how to build such code. Let's keep it very simple. Let's define an interface video player with only one method, say play. Let's say we have a class called MP4 player that implements video player. Let's define the play method. Let's say play MP4 followed by file name. Suppose we have another player called AVI player, implements video player. Let's define the play method. Say play AVI file followed by file name. Now we have two video player implementations here. Let's say the file name is sample.mp4. For this, which player we should pick? Yes, we will pick MP4 player. Okay, let's create object and call the play method. That's good. Now let's run the program and check the output. Yes, MP4 player picked it. Now if I change the file extension to AVI, you need to change the following lines of code, isn't it? Now we need to pick AVI player. Now again if I want to play sample.mp4, then? So this code is not flexible enough for change. Now let's introduce a simple player factory and say it has a method called getVideoPlayer with file name as parameter. Now let's make the decision here. If it is MP4 file, then return MP4 player instance. If it is AVI file, then return AVI player instance. If not both, then return null. We didn't find a player for the file. Now let's create factory object here. Say factory equal to new player factory. Now let's pass on the file name to factory and obtain the player. Say video player, player equal to factory.getVideoPlayer of file name. Now before calling the method, we need to check if we obtained the player or not. Now call the play method only when player is not null. Otherwise it leads to null pointer exception. Now is this code flexible? Let's check. Run the program. You can see MP4 player output. Now let's change the file extension to AVI. Now you don't need to change anything here. Just run it. Now you can see AVI player output. Is this code flexible now? Yes. If you see this part of the code is called the client code, and you will see this spread across the project several times. If you write the code like this, then the change could be introduced at one point. Otherwise, we need to go to each place where it is referred and change it, and it will be painful. Here the code is now dependent on interface and not tightly coupled with implementation. As you can see, we didn't choose any implementation here. We left it to the factory to select it. Hence, such code is called loosely coupled code because it is dependent on interface rather than implementation. Hence, implementation could be changed as per the necessity.